welcome to the Zeducation podcast. Welcome to another episode of the Zeducation podcast. Today's episode is about how you can increase your leadership influence and confidence by how you dress. We're talking about fabrics of influence, why what you wear might matter more than you think. Today's guest is Nora Swann, a bold voice and visionary in Aotearoa's fashion scene. As the founder of Nora Swann Ltd, Fusion Fashion, and the Dress in Confidence program, Nora has spent over a decade empowering people to use fashion as a tool for self-expression, confidence, and leadership. But her mission goes deeper than clothing. It's about identity, belonging, and showing up unapologetically in every space you walk into. Whether she's curating runway shows or mentoring future leaders, Nora reminds us that fashion isn't superficial, it's strategic. It's not just about how you look, but how you lead. So let's dive into how style, self-worth, and purpose are woven together, and how what you wear might just be influencing how you show up in your career. Nora, thank you for joining us on the Zeducation podcast. How are you doing today, my friend?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me, and it's good to see you again.
Yeah, it's good to see you too. It's been a while, but it's our pleasure. So let's go to the beginning. Our audience loves hearing about people's career journey and what inspired them to get into the space. So what was your journey and how did you end up in fashion?
So it's been nearly 14 years now in the fashion space, and for me it started with a competition in a magazine, Who Wants to Be a Fashion Stylist. Heard it on the radio, came across it in the supermarkets and the cover of Clio magazine, and entered it. And so I literally described my wardrobe in 100 words and was surprised to get a call 6 weeks later saying that I had won the competition out of 4,000 people nationally. So that was the beginning of it, yeah.
Wow. So you described your wardrobe in 100 words. What did you say that made you win?
I just, because, back then I was, very flamboyant back then, which when I look back now, it actually was still quite basic. And I just, said, my wardrobe looks like this. And I envisioned walking down a runway and, I was always quite creative. So I just meshed that all together and was really surprised to hear that I took it out.
I love it. And here you are, years later, right, helping other people. So here's the big question. Can what you wear or fashion influence your leadership?
Most definitely, and I think I'm living proof of that. I never expected to be where I am now when I first started the journey in fashion, because here I was, actually, I started really late, and my age is coming through here. I started in my early 30s, and it was just about me trying to find out who I was as a person. And I always loved fashion, and I always felt like it was my safe space. And it was going into spaces, realizing I was the first person to go into a lot of these spaces, and trying to understand who I was, the space that I was going into. And then all of a sudden I realized years later that I was the first of Pacific going into these spaces. And then it dawned on me that, wow, this is the beginning of something that looks like it's leadership and pioneering in spaces where there were hardly any Pacific. So I kind of stumbled into it, to be honest.
Yeah. And how many people, I guess, when they come to you, right? I'm thinking like from like a customer or a leader, and where do you start in terms of their fashion?
Well, I'm always really big on trying to understand. Obviously you're trying to understand why is it that the person's come to see me, and fashion is very. I probably get into trouble for saying this, but it can be very superficial. And so for me, it's like, how am I going to help you be the best version of yourself? I'm not here to make you look like me. I'm hoping that you were attracted to me because I sparked something in yourself, and it wasn't that you want to look like me. I don't think it shouldn't be about aspirations. It should be about inspiring people to become the best version of themselves.
And where do you find that balance between, I don't care what you think, what I wear, versus like, actually, I have to care about what I wear
Yeah.
because it does influence people.
Yeah. I think it's not one or the other. I think it's a partnership. And it really comes down to when you look in the mirror, is the person who's looking back at you, like, can you resonate with that person? Does that person truly represent who you are? So it comes down to you going deep and connecting with yourself to meet your authentic self and feeling comfortable in that space. Because I know fashion is all about the external generally, but for me personally, that is not me, and that's never been me. And I've learnt that early going into the fashion space. I realised that I was going against the grain. So not only was I Pacific, was I a woman, but I was going, what I believed in and my values were completely against what fashion is all about.
Tell us a little bit about that, because that's very interesting. Going against the grain and what everyone thinks the fashion should look like.
Yeah. Well, I'd go in and pitch these great ideas that I had to, different organisations and talk about, let's talk about authentic beauty and let's put different sized models on the runway. And I would get, it'll get stopped, like, no, we don't want that. We do want this part of what you're offering. We love that side. But in terms of what people want to see on the runway, they want to see the size 8. They want to see the tall, the slim. That just didn't resonate with me. So for me, I knew, well, that's not for me. I kept on getting closed doors because I kept on going in with that mindset. And people in business would probably say, well, that's wrong because it's all about, you've got to sell a product that people want. But for me, authenticity is really big for me. And so I thought, no, I want to do something that I love doing. I'm passionate about it. And if doors close, then that's not meant to be for me. And at the same time, I was refining my own product because I want to go to sleep knowing that I've tried my best to do good in this world. And I think in the fashion space, it can be very toxic. It can be very dangerous for young women. We live in this digital world and they're saying, well, beauty looks like this. And I'm like, actually, no, beauty doesn't look like that, especially for a Pacific woman. And I've experienced it myself, not good enough, too loud, doesn't fit in the box, won't listen. And I just thought, stuff it. I'm going to just continue to push what I believe in. And, I'm very strong in my culture. So my cultural values are still very big to who I am as a person, although that's probably seen as a juxtaposition, right? Because I don't fit in that traditional box, but I'm still very strong in my values. And to this day, I've still, I've been consistent with my messaging, and I think that's what resonates with people.
I think a lot of businesses realize that, like in terms of the keyword diversity, right? And you see it a lot in ads and stuff, like especially like ads around gyms. Before, back in the day, you used to see like ripped people, like the abs, the muscles, even like male and female. But now the ads that I'm seeing recently, it's like, no, it's just a normal person with a t-shirt just working out because, they want to envision themselves at the gym. Otherwise, if you show them, because there is that other side as well, where if you see that and you'll be like, oh man, that's unrealistic. I can't achieve that. Or the gym is only for strong and ripped people, not for me, right? So they can't see themselves in it. So what you're saying is when it comes to like fashion and runways, that's what we're trying to show, right?
Yeah.
Like you want people to see themselves as well, not see someone that they can't be. You said that beauty, like, the world has their definition of what beauty is. How do you define beauty?
You know what? That's such an interesting question. And it can be very simple, but at the same time, it's very complex, right? For me, beauty comes in so many different forms. I see beauty in everything, that it's so hard for me to pinpoint it to something, because it could be something as beautiful as how this room has been set up, or hearing a really nice song, or seeing someone smile, or seeing an old person with wrinkles. Like anything that's real and authentic to me is beautiful. Yeah.
Something that's real and authentic. I love that. Now, tell us about your journey. I'm not too sure how to say this, but it's some sort of disease, rosacea. How do you say it?
Rosacea.
Rosacea.
Yeah.
So tell us about that experience and how that shifted your mindset around what beauty looks like.
So 5 years ago, I got rosacea, which is kind of like a rash or in reddening and inflammation on your face. So, I work in the fashion industry, right? And out of all places to get rosacea, I got it on my face. And you can get it anywhere on your body. This is what I've learned, but it's commonly found on your face. And so rosacea is like reddening, a rash, kind of like acne. And I had to live with that for 5 years. 5 years. And it was so hard. And probably one of the most saddest times in my life, because I worked in fashion. And I always grew up, I was quite healthy, I'm very healthy in how I live and with the fitness and with what I eat. And so, generally when you're healthy, then your skin is really clear and clean. But having rosacea meant my world fell apart because I was going to work, and I know that in fashion it's mostly about the external and how you look, and it was just hard. I travelled, I went to Australia a couple of times for work. I was speaking at events, I was sitting in panels, and I had to sit there, and most times I would try and put makeup on it, but that just made things worse. And so when it came to washing the makeup off, my face would be burning. And so I went on this journey of self-discovery, and I realized that, here I am talking about dressed in confidence, being dressed in confidence. And I started that program to help people build their self-confidence, with fashion as the medium. And I knew about surface level beauty, and I knew that that's not me. That's definitely not me. But I realized, it wasn't until I got rosacea that I realized that I was actually, it was surface beauty. I wasn't walking my talk. And so I had this massive moment of realization that I wasn't being true to myself. And, as I said before, and it's probably going to be a topic that pops up a lot during this podcast, is that I'm really big on authenticity. I'm a Scorpio. I'm so, we're all about being true to yourself and being honest, even if you're like, it makes you look like the bad guy or you're being really blunt. But it told me that I wasn't being true to myself. And so I needed to make sure, I had this really massive moment of finding out that I wasn't who I was saying that I was. And so there was heaps of tears and heaps of times of me sitting with all those feelings and just feeling it all, and it felt really yuck, and it felt really embarrassing that I wasn't being honest to myself. And then I was teaching this program, I was a leader in this space. I created Dressed in Confidence for that reason, for people to be the best versions of themselves, which included being authentic with yourself, and I wasn't doing that. And so, connected with God, did a lot of meditation, and found out who I really was at the core of my being, and have now learned to just, continue to authentically be me and be more self-aware, and to call myself out each time I was bullshitting, Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for being so vulnerable and open about your story. You'll be surprised at how many people out there, especially a woman, who might resonate with that. And I feel a lot for especially women, their bodies change, especially when they have children, and all of that stuff can really get to them. And I feel like there's leaders out there who, might be passionate about the space they're in, like yourself with fashion. And then they have their moments where, self-doubt, self-confidence, they challenge themselves, the ups and downs. But I feel like that's, everyone's going to experience that. But what you did there is that you got through it. And I think, what's your advice around people who might be struggling with that, like self-doubt, I don't like the way that I look, I don't like the way that I feel. What's your advice to help them move forward?
I think it starts with little steps, like starting the day off with positive affirmations, like what we were talking about off camera, right? Like saying good things to yourself, because, you know what, we're so good at complimenting everyone else and being nice to everyone else. And then we can also be the meanest person to ourselves. So that internal dialogue is really important. It needs to be positive. And just doing little things, you know, like being intentional with how you dress. Like, okay, today, you know what, my favorite color is red. I'm going to wear red today. Or when you introduce yourself to someone else, say something nice about yourself as well. You know, of course, after you're saying something nice about them, and being intentional about, you know, wearing your favorite piece of clothing, because all of that, you know, helps set the mood for the day, and it should have a flow and effect to how you not only live that day, but, you know, your entire life.
I love that. I feel like, you know, people might look really nice and people are like, man, that's a nice dress. But on the inside, they don't feel beautiful.
Yeah.
You know, and they struggle with that. And I think it's important that, you know, like you said, it starts here, not out here. And, you know, finding that balance between inner beauty and outer beauty. Like you talked about inner beauty a lot, right? And making sure there is a partnership or, you know, a sync alignment. How do you work on your inner beauty? I mean, it's easy to work on your outer beauty. I mean, I'm not going to say easy, but I feel like, you know, you can buy a dress, you can put, you know, stuff on, you can do your hair, but how do you work on your inner beauty?
So it is, like I said previously, it's the internal dialogue has to be good. You've got to make time for yourself, like find out things that you like doing that doesn't cost a cent, like going for a walk, you know, being out in nature, really connecting with nature to help you ground yourself, I find has helped me with strengthening my inner beauty. Identifying with the things that you don't like about yourself and start to have really good conversations with yourself about those things. You know, other people don't need to know what they are, because I know that everyone has insecurities, right? And so it's just being a bit nicer to yourself, and starting to just accept who you are, and know what you need to work on, and then slowly work on those things. Yeah.
I love that. I don't want this to come out wrong or bad, but, you know, what made my wife attractive to me wasn't so much what she wore on the outside, but who she was as a person. She was very kind, very thoughtful, respectful of her parents. You know, her values, you talked a lot about values. I could see it in action, in the way that she treated people, in the way that she spoke, in the way that she conducted herself. And I felt like that was more attractive to me or appealing to me than what she wore. Because what she wore at the time was like basketball singlets, jandals. And I was like, you know, but because I got to know her and I was like, oh man, you know, that's what caught my attention, especially for a lot of people. And the last thing you want is, like, you know, someone looks cool, flash and that, and then you go find out they're a mean person.
Oh, of course.
They're not kind, they're not walking the talk, they're not being authentic. Or, you know, when they say they're going to do something, they don't do it, you know, their actions don't align with their words. Yeah. So that's the last thing that you want. Now, you've worked with a lot of people, right? A lot of different people, helping them bring out their confidence by how they dress, etc. What are some tips that you can give to our audience around, you know, if they're like, what's my style? How do I know if my style's good or not? Yeah. You know, how do I look at my wardrobe and give it an update? You know, like any tips around that?
Yeah. Just before we get to that, so I do want to say that you're 100% correct. Like our outer wear, or, you know, our professional image, or how we present ourselves to the world should complement who we are on the inside. And that, you know, like I said to you before, I've always gone against the grain in this space, because in fashion you're supposed to look a certain way and act a certain way. And I thought, no, like my true beauty comes from inside, and my external beauty complements that's on the inside. So I've never resonated with my industry itself, because, you know, you've got all these influencers trying to sell a product. And I'm like, I don't want to sell that product because it doesn't mean anything to me. You know, the impact's got to have some social good attached to it. And why would I just sell something for the sake of selling something or for making profit? So I agree with you 100% in that sense. And I feel that, because people do say, don't you think you're kind of contradicting yourself? And I said, no, because I, from day one, have been consistent with my messaging. It's all about inner beauty, and the external complements it. And at the same time, as women, as women and men, why can't we be the whole package, right? Why can't we? And so I feel like I walk my talk in that sense when it comes to, staying in shape and, fitness. So it's like a complete holistic approach to how I live. So inside is clean, it's beautiful, and so is the external. Yeah. But going on to tips, I just thought I'd add that in.
I love that.
Tips. So number one is you need to know what your personal style is. So there are about 6 different styles. I think it's, off the top of my head, it's classic, athleisure, corporate, natural, and creative. So you've got to know what your style is, because that's going to help guide you as you're putting together your outfits. The second one is you need to know what your body type is and what clothes suit, complement, and what clothes don't make you look as good, right? Third one is you need to know what your face shape is, because again, that's going to add, when it comes to the right hairstyles, whether or not you suit the bangs, what kind of glasses suit you, what kind of accessories, or earrings, length and proportion suits. And then the fourth one is colours, knowing what colours suit your natural complexion. And then fifth, which is for me the ultimate, is confidence. So having the right confidence to pull it all off.
Nice. I know this podcast is definitely about career and leadership, but I want to get into the personal space as well. Especially, what's your tips around, especially for men?
Yeah.
And women, around, dressing up to, if you're going on a date or, you're a single person, you want to dress up to impress, sometimes dress to impress is a good thing, right? You're not going to attract someone if you're not, but I guess, what are your tips around that?
Good question, because we know that men generally don't care, right?
About what?
About appearance. They'll just throw it.
Do you think women?
Most that I've come across,
Okay.
Yeah. I do have some male clients who, they get it, they love to look good and feel good. And
you mean they don't care about how they dress?
Yes.
Oh, I thought you meant like they don't care about how women dress.
No, you meant for themselves.
Okay, gotcha. No, it makes sense.
And so with men, usually if you've got a partner, then your partner dresses you, right? But if you're single, you're a completely different ball game. You're either going to ask your sister or your mum, or you just don't give a crap and you just go. So it does come back to those 5 tips that I said, confidence, colours, body type, face shape, and knowing your style. But I think you really have to invest in yourself, like put in the effort. If you're really wanting to, change your image or create a new you, then you've got to really invest into how you look physically.
Yeah.
So hence stylist. Your stylist comes into
So it's not just about the clothing, you're saying, it's about investing in, exercise, your body.
I think so, not only for appearance, but for longevity in life, right? I see you on LinkedIn as well, like you're at the gym, and you probably see I'm at the gym as well. And I know a lot of people don't like to talk about this, but your health is so important. Last time I checked, Pacific people have the life expectancy of Pacific people is 68. And I'm like, why can't we live until 90? Just like other races. And so it does come back to your diet, your lifestyle. And so, when I go and hit the gym, I'm at the gym at least 5 times a week. It's not just so I look good. It's because I want to be around for my children. I want to for my grandchildren. I want to set a good example for my kids. And I want our Pacific people to be around on this earth longer, And, we had that chat offline about going back to basics, right? We really need to look at what we're eating, what we're consuming, not only physically, but everything that's around us. Who are you hanging out with? who are you taking advice from? All of that needs to be good and positive and things that are going to help us thrive in life as, as Pacific people. Sorry, I've kind of gone off topic here, but you can see that I'm quite passionate about fitness as a Pacific person because we see how long and what's happening to our people.
Yeah. No, I think I think your physical well-being influences everything else. How you feel, right? If you look good, you feel good.
Yeah.
All right. If you look in the mirror and you're happy with what you see, you feel good. It gives you a different kind of confidence that clothing can't give you.
Yeah.
Right. So I definitely believe that. Like, you've got to look after your body. Like, look.
We only have one body.
We only have one body.
Got to look after
and
it.
you've only got one life.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So invest in your body just as much as you invest in how you look.
Yeah, and we spoke about this as well offline. Like, why would we want to be mediocre? And so this is why I go back to the whole package thing. Like, it's not just the internal beauty. It's, we can be freaking fantastic in every single way. And so for me, that is, making sure that I'm true to myself, making sure that I physically look well, but then I'm also mentally strong. I have a positive outlook on life, and what I'm eating is good for my body. It's going to nourish my body because then that nourishes my mind. Yeah.
I love that. Do you have any examples or maybe clients that you've worked with? You don't have to mention names, where, you met them and you supported them, the way that they dressed, the inner beauty, the outer beauty, and the transformation they got from it, and maybe some key things that we can learn from that experience.
Yeah. I will share, once I worked with a young guy, so youth, Māori Pacifica, and he'd come to class, I think from memory, he wore the same clothes 3 days that I saw him. And on day 3, because we provide wardrobe as well, because I've got a secondhand clothing store, we provided wardrobe. And after that session with him, he was a completely different guy. So, we went through all the wellbeing sessions, and, this is to help build the inner self-confidence so you feel, comfortable in your own skin, and reminding you, that you are beautiful and that you are worthy and you are enough. But I found with this particular guy, none of that was working. So I was like, okay, that's interesting. Okay, I'll just keep my eye on him. And then day 3, we had the makeovers, and after his makeover, he had completely changed. And I know it, different things spark or trigger for people to realize their self-worth and where the dignity is installed back into who they are, right? But for him in particular, it was the wardrobe. And he was a completely different person. Like, his confidence grew. He was walking around smiling. He was actually speaking and chatting to everyone. And for me, that was completely beautiful. So that's one scenario. Another scenario is when I've worked with people who are plus size, right? And so for them, the wellbeing part of our program worked. They were, feeling more comfortable in their skin. They realized their self-worth. And then when it came to makeover time, so during fittings, they were not embarrassed to, strip down to their underwear and get changed regardless of their size, because they realized, their self-worth and their confidence had built that much that they were comfortable in who they were and to strip down. And so for me, again, I was like, another one. So it's interesting to see what triggers people to, to really connect with their true self and remember who they are and remember what their purpose is. Maybe that it's not remembering it all at once, but it's those steps in the right direction, to become the best version of yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just reminds me of, I think there was one experience where I had, you don't know what you don't know, right? Until someone, like you said, compliments, and you'd be like, hey, Pussy, I like you suit that colour. Oh, that looks nice. Guess what? I'm going to end up wearing that same colour for the whole week. Sometimes you just need someone to tell you that, right? But adding on to that, my question is, hey, look, every woman's different, but what is it that what's your advice for men to, how they dress, like how can they look a lot more like, appealing to women? What do women like
Yeah.
to see on men? That's basically what I'm saying.
I think what I see with most men is they are, there's no intention behind what they're wearing. They're just throwing on whatever, right? And so they're definitely not thinking about their body type. Like a lot of men tend to throw on baggy clothes, right? And I know men don't have confidence issues like women do, they've got different confidence issues. Women, it's related to weight, and men, it's just, I think they're a bit unaware, and I might get into trouble for saying this to you.
No, you won't. Tell us straight. We need to hear it.
They're unaware.
Yeah.
They don't care because, I think they don't think looks is everything, but, it's the complete opposite for the opposite sex, right? And they're a bit stingy with their money. Like they don't want to spend their money on clothes. They want to spend it on other things, which is completely fine. They've got different priorities. And a lot of them have just bad taste.
Bad taste. Okay, cool.
No style.
I'm hearing a lot of,
No style.
these guys don't...
That's not all though. Not all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But tell us, like, what do you like to see? Like because maybe like, I got a tight shirt there.
Yeah.
I've got a singlet there. I've got a baggy shirt. Like,
you know what? Women like to see men who are intentional in how they dress, and it's like I said before, it's not dress to please someone else's eye. It's a man who's confident in himself and makes the effort and puts in the time to dress himself. Yeah. Yeah. That to me, I think is sexy. Yeah. A man who's put in the effort to dress up. Even if I don't like their style, then it's like, I like it. It's intentional. It's purposeful. He's put in time and effort.
How can you tell just by looking at them? They're like, man, that was intentional. Man, that guy put a lot of effort into that.
Yeah. So again, it comes back to those 5 elements of style. Like they've got the color scheme right. Mm-hmm. They've been intentional about the accessories, and I know men are limited to accessories as well. So they've put a lot of planning and thought into the accessories. They've thought about the occasion, so where they're going, so they're dressed appropriately for whatever the event is, So there's that. They're polished from head to toe, which includes the hair and right down to the shoes, polished, regardless of, whether or not they used water or shoe polish or whatever. Yeah.
Nice. There you go, men. Some really great advice there.
And I'll just add, like looking after yourself physically,
Yeah. Exercise, nutrition, fitness, all of that, all of the above. Cool. And what about for women?
For women, again, it's very similar. So intentional dressing, pride in how they carry themselves. A poise is another thing, right? How you carry yourself, You don't want to be slouching and you can showing that you don't have good self-esteem. So it's just polished from head to toe, whether or not they wear makeup, totally fine. But just taking care of ourselves, self-care, self-love. A lot of people would say that that's being vain. I disagree 100%. Yeah.
And as we draw near the end of the episode, what's something that you're seeing out there in the fashion industry that you don't disagree with or like to see change?
I'll probably get into trouble for this, but I don't like people trying to be somebody else. It's coming back to that authenticity thing, right? Everyone's trying to look like Kim Kardashian. Who gives who am I? But dress for yourself, man. Because at the end of the day, Kim Kardashian doesn't even know who you are, right? Another thing is what the younger generation are wearing. And again, I'm going to get into trouble for this, but is it the eyelashes? I'm checking your eyelashes, girl. No, your eyelashes are good. It's the fake eyelashes, not the fake natural is nice, but it's the fake that is just like really out there like this. It's like 4 times the amount of eyelashes. Yeah, I don't get that. And I probably get into trouble for that because it's trending big time. But I'm a big advocate for natural beauty. If you can't see, bro, I'm not dyeing my hair. And it's been a really interesting topic lately because, I'm on the other side of 45 now. And so everyone's like dyeing their hair. And I made a conscious decision to not dye my hair because I've never seen anyone older than me who I know personally who hasn't dyed their hair. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to be that person. I'm going to go natural, but I'm going to prove that you can go grey as a Pacific Island woman and still look freaking hot. So yeah, natural beauty. I'm very big on natural beauty.
I love that. Well, look, I think I am fresh out of questions. You've provided a lot of wisdom gems for our audience to go away and think about. Go look at your wardrobe, see what you can change, and think about those 5 things that Nora brought up as well in terms of your style. Any final words of encouragement for our audience around dressing for confidence or dressing to grow the influence?
Yeah, I think it's just reiterating that you want to make sure that the true you is represented externally to the world because you are the one who has to live with you. Yeah.
I love that. Starts on the inside.
100%.
Starts on the inside and the outside complements what's there. Great. And if people want to get in touch with your services, any leaders out there around how they're dressing, fashion, inner beauty, outer beauty, how can they get in touch?
So my website is www.noraswann.co.nz, but I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram.
Awesome. There you go. Thank you so much, Nora Swann. Thank you for your time. And that's a wrap for today's episode. If this conversation gave you something valuable, do me a favor, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you haven't already, hit the follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode. This show is all about helping you unleash your greatness, and the more we grow, the more we can bring you content that truly makes an impact. Thanks for being part of the Zeducation podcast. Let's keep pushing forward, and I'll see you next time.